Welcome back for part 2 of repainting this Sylvanian house. We're going to start on the interior and hope that Grebe doesn't eat anything that he's not supposed to. So this is our existing interior of the house. As you can see, while I was painting the outside, I also did the inner frames of these windows just so my paint didn't dry out and I could still use the same colour. I've taken out the downstairs ceiling slash upstairs flooring just so we can paint that separately, because it's much easier to paint something that isn't in a doll's house than is outside of it, that's still inside. So yeah, and Rosie and Angus are still in there, I think. Yeah, so this is Rosie and Angus McCatney, who are going to be running the haberdashery and dressmakers. So I'll also be making some teeny weeny dresses and things for them to sell, and yeah, I hope it'll be as much fun as I had doing the exterior. If you haven't seen that, please go and watch that, and subscribe if you'd like to see more of, well, this sort of thing and my historic sewing and any other sort of little craft projects and cooking that I come up with. This really is just me doing what I want to do, but filming it for you guys and hope that you enjoy it. So yeah, on with the interior, I suppose. So we're going to start off by doing our wood panelling. This is white acrylic with just the tiniest amount of blue in to add the base coat, to add a couple of shadows. We'll dry brush pure white on top of that. And you don't need to be too careful with this because, like I said, we're going to be applying a top coat anyway, and all this is going to be wallpapered. So you want to make sure you actually overlap this area here where the wallpaper all starts. We're going for a kind of a Victorian look. I've got some printed off William Morris wallpaper and painted panelling when people started using softer wood for panelling because it was more widespread. It was traditionally painted, whereas earlier on people were using hardwood, which would remain stained and not painted. So now we're going to dry brush pure titanium white over our slightly bluish white, which is pretty much how whitening washing powders work, is the blue makes the white seem whiter. And if you're Victorian or Edwardian, you'd use laundry blue, which was just a pure blue you put into your laundry. A nugget of purest green. Again, I'm not worried too much about getting it on the floor surface because we're going to paint that later. And it's not that hard to paint over white. As you can see, it gives it a much nicer 3D effect. While we're here, I've also painted in both ceilings. This one doesn't seem too bad, but this one might need an extra coat of white afterwards. So it's now time to start doing the flooring. I've mixed this lovely dark brown. Like we did with the outside, we're going to dry brush on the top with a slightly lighter colour to add some depth. But this is just the base coat. I'm also going to do it on the upstairs as well. I'm trying to do it in the direction of where the wood grain would be, but I do occasionally have to sort of poke it a little bit to get into the cracks between the floorboards. I'm just going to go in with my fine detail brush just around the edges to try and avoid getting any brown onto the white panelling. And now also the upstairs. So while our floor is drying, we're going to start working on the lighting. I've got these nice wired string lights. They don't overheat, they're just little LEDs, so they should be quite good. And they also look very pretty. You can set them to many things. You can also just set them to, you know, just on. But I thought these would really nicely sort of complement the little house, but I want them to look a little bit more like they belong in the actual world. So if I find my first light near the battery end here. So the plan is to fold them in half like that to make a little candle shape, and then wrap them in a tiny bit of this white electrical tape to make them look like standing candles. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on and rig up the rest of our candles. So here I've placed my lights just to give myself a better idea of what I'm working with. I think this is more or less what I'm planning to do, but I'm not going to stick them down just yet because I need to get some wallpaper planned and work out which order I'm going to do this in. So in the meantime, we're going to start dry brushing our woodwork because that's pretty much dry at this stage. So we're just gluing these little LEDs on. Now that I'm happy with the placement, I'm just gluing them on at the bottom because I'm going to be wallpapering, so I want to be able to get around them. I've also electrical taped down the wiring just so it's a little bit less obvious underneath the wallpaper that I'm going to put on next. So I had far too many lights, so I had to be a little bit ingenious about how many I put around the outside, but I think it looks really good, but that's why there's this sort of strange glowy ball on top. And I've done this essentially by holding everything in place with these bits of tape and then gluing it down, and I'm leaving those there until it's completely dry, and if anything falls off when I've taken the tape off, I'll glue it back on again and hope for the best. So you can see here that I've already started putting the wallpaper in. So I've got these lovely William Morris prints. These are just printed out onto A4 sheets. I'll leave a link down into the description so that you can use them yourself if you want to. I made them by taking the pattern and tiling it together on Clip Studio, and that took ages. So if you want to use it, please don't waste all your time like I did. Please go ahead and use it. Let's move this one out of the way. Obviously you have to cut the white borders off. And this one I'm going to start by measuring the height of the wallpaper. That's 9.3 centimetres. I'm just going to mark 9.3 centimetres onto this, making sure it's the right way up. That's 9.3. Three. I'm just going to very carefully cut along this line. I'm going to save any offcut pieces just in case I need to fill in any gaps. Then we're going to take some double-sided sticky tape. That's about the right length. and glue that at the top and the bottom of this sheet. Doesn't matter if it overlaps ever so slightly because we can trim that off. Just trim off these excess bits. There we go. So next we're going to measure how big or how wide we want our strip to be. So in this particular case it's 2.2 centimetres. So you have to make sure when you're tiling it that I'm going left to right, which means that when I flip it over I have to take off the right hand side. That was 2.2. I do join these up. Sometimes you may feel like you don't need to, but I'm doing it just because I'm not very good at straight lines naturally, so and make sure it's the right way up. In this case, the tulips are always facing upward. Double check that's a good fit. Ah, here's where we run into our first problem. We've got one of our candles that's in the way there, blocking this top corner. So I'm just going to slightly snip off a wee corner. See again if it fits. And slightly more off that corner. Perfect. I try and stick from the bottom and go up. I don't know why, it just seems to work slightly better for me. So I take off the double-sided on that side, very Blue Peter double-sided sticky tape. Pop that in. And smooth it up. Then fold that down a little bit. Take off the top piece of sticky tape and just smooth that all the way up. Bree, what are you doing? And then we do the same again. So I'm basically measuring, as you can see here, to the next obstacle along. So we've got this beam, so I'm going to measure between the edge of the beam and the edge of the window frame and straight up. And I'll also measure then from this edge of the window frame to where the candle is, and from the candle to this wall, and so on and so forth, because you see on this side it gives a slightly smoother finish. So we'll proceed. So we've run into another obstacle here. Is this little I don't know what they're called, supportive strut thing. And that starts, I'm using the pattern on the wallpaper here, starts just where that leaf comes in. Leaf, there you go. I'm just going to do a quick snip in and up. Check if it fits. That's slightly lower. Remember, take off less than you might expect, because you can take more off, but it's much harder to put anything back on again. So basically just going to do the same thing all the way around. Normally I wouldn't check this thoroughly, but the pattern's quite intricate, and also I only have one A4 sheet per floor, so I'm hoping this is going to be enough. I just got this printed off at work. Definitely a good use of company resources, that. Doing wallpapering would be a lot easier if I hadn't already put the lighting in, but then I'd have all these copper wires and there's no way that I could paint exact matches to hide them. So this is pretty much the process I'm going to be doing throughout, and I'll give you another update when I've done the bottom floor. So that's our downstairs wallpapering done. I think it looks pretty good. There are a couple of places where the pattern doesn't match, either because I wasn't feeling very bright, or because I had to sort of fill in some patches that didn't quite match up, because I didn't have quite enough for all the little nooks and crannies. So you might notice we've got two little sections of the exposed copper wire there. So I'm literally just going to take a tiny dab of the white acrylic and very carefully, hopefully without getting the wallpaper, paint over it. There you go. So now we're going to do upstairs. Here is an interlude where you get to appreciate my little baby Grebe. Isn't he cute? So this is now all the wallpaper completely done. I didn't have quite enough, so I've had to paint in some skirting at the bottom. And you can see there I've also done white, partly because I ran out and also because I think it would bring a little bit more light into the room. And then downstairs we have our little haberdashery area. So upstairs is going to be the dressmaker / seamstress workshop, and then downstairs is going to be the haberdashery shop. And I think it's looking really fantastic. So tomorrow we're going to get started on furnishing this place. I've just painted all the furniture so that it matches and it looks a little bit more wood grainy. I especially like the chair and table and how that's gone. I need to add a couple of little bronze bits just to add some sort of little highlights, but I think that's going really well. I've also repainted these baskets again, so they're a similar kind of colour and just fit in with the vibe of the house a bit better. But there are a couple of little things that I'm making myself because I feel like they were needed in the shop. So next we'll talk through those. So I wanted to make a little mannequin to hang dresses on. So I've glued together these two lolly sticks. I'd like to leave them as is so that some of the furniture does look a little bit newer, and also because upstairs is quite dark. So I've just made it... it's because you're zipped up at the back. just big enough to get a dress on it. And then I've poked a hole in the top of this wine bottle cap so that it slots in just there. Now I think that it looks okay like that, but it looks very much like I've stuck a lolly stick through a bottle cap. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a paint, just painting the base in black. I would like to leave the top gold because I think that looks quite nice. I also don't have any black paint anymore, so this is actually a very dark purple. This is probably going to need more than one layer just because it's very shiny, and I wasn't sure about sanding metal. I'm going to try and find my finer tipped brush to do the top, but I think that'll look quite nice in the corner there. So here is our dress stand. I think it looks quite cute. At one point, because I only want to collect cats, I was considering sacrificing this poor bear and taking its head off, but I just couldn't bear to bear to oh dear, sorry, I think I've been on my own too long painting. Anyway, inhaling fumes. Yeah, so in the end I really couldn't handle the idea of decapitating this poor bear to use them as a mannequin in a shop, so I guess this one's just going to hang around until I can find someone to give her to. Don't decapitate me, please. I have so much to give. Yeah, I've definitely been on my own too long. So another bit of furniture I wanted was a little stool to stand on, so that you can sort of do the hem. I don't know if anyone's ever had that where you've been dressmaking. You stand on a stool so that people can get at the hem more easily, and then they trace the hem when you're standing. So I thought this lid was about the right size for a Sylvanian to stand on. Thank you very much, Rosie. So I wanted to cover this in fabric, so it's a nice little fabric stool, and I searched my fabric stash and didn't really find anything that was stretchy and a nice colour that would go with the rest until I found this old manky sock with holes in and bobbles on, and generally looking a bit worse for wear. I don't know, I've got this horrible urge to keep broken fabric because it might one day be useful, and then I do something like this and turns out, haha, I was right, it is useful. So I've got something round to draw around. I thought that was about enough, or probably about precisely enough to go over the top and also down the sides. So I'm just going to draw around this electrical tape on the least bobbly fluffy bit I can find. And then we'll use our fabric scissors to cut this out. I say these are fabric scissors. They were fabric scissors until they got used for other crafting projects, not necessarily by me. And now they're not great for fabric anymore, to be honest, but I'll shell out for some new fabric scissors with a label on next time. Any crafting people in the house, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm on about when people nick your good scissors for, God forbid, Christmas wrapping, or even worse, for using in the kitchen. Okay, so there's our little circle of fabric. Does it look better on the other side? Oh no, it does not. No, we're going to be using this side. So that, because it's a little bit stretchy as well, should fit over this perfectly fine. Hopefully. If not, I'll have to cut out another bit of sock. So, could I sew this? Yes. Am I more likely going to use glue? Yeah, I am. Where did I leave it? Here we are. See, I could gather it and stuff it inside, but then I'm worried I won't be able to stick these lolly stick legs on. I'm just going to Good amount of glue just around the edge. I've used almost an entire glue tube on this project. Maybe that's why I've gone a bit strange. It's glue I've been inhaling. Ooh. Too much glue, too much glue. Spread it round, everything will be fine. Oh, that is working far better than I imagined. There you go. I might just get an elastic band to hold it on while it dries. It would appear that someone has helpfully taken my elastic band stash and probably thrown it away, as it is rubbish. I'm in a constant battle of throwing versus not throwing away rubbish in this house. That looks alright. Basically, it's fine as long as I can't see anything from the top. Then we'll glue in our little lolly stick legs. These were some spare bits of beam that I didn't use on the rest of the house. So I'm going to leave that to dry upside down and hope that the legs stay on when I turn it back up the right way. Obviously it doesn't have to be very load bearing because it's, you know, it's only going to have Sylvanian standing on it. So there you go, there's our little hemming stool as demonstrated by the lovely Rosie. So I also need a couple more little bits and bobs to fill up the shelves, so I thought I'd use this embroidery thread to make a couple of skeins of wool. I have got these ones from the wee online bundle I was given, but I'd like to make a couple more myself. So I'm just going to wrap it around the end of this lolly stick. Leaving a little bit at the end. Pull that off. Then wrap that around the middle. And we've got a little skein of wool. So this is just little offcuts of embroidery thread that aren't really big enough to use for a full project, unless I was doing something very, very small. And also they're not my favourite colours to wear. They're colours I really like, but I don't think that I'm likely to wear them. I'm not going to glue them down, just in case I ever do want to steal these back and use them. And there you go, some little skeins of wool. If I need anything else to also fill up my shelves, I'll raid my fabric stash and take any little tiny pieces of cabbage and use those. So for now I'll just pop those into the shop and get on with my possibly most ambitious piece of furniture. So let's see how that one goes. So this is going to be our little sewing table. I've glued these 3 lengths of lolly sticks together and I'm just going to strut them up with a little support beam. That's one. At either end. So I was wanting it flush with the edges but leaving enough space either side to stick the little legs on. So doing pretty much the same thing, just with some upright legs. I'm not a carpenter, as you can tell. I like woodworking, but I'm not very experienced with it, I must say. Yeah, doing all this with standard glue might not be the best option. I really should get a hot glue gun at some stage, but I'm very concerned about burning myself. Because I'm a bit cat-handed as an individual. I'm just supporting that leg a little bit because it feels like it's trying to tip over. And once that's all sturdy enough, we're going to give it a quick stain with the same stain that we used on the outside for the wooden beams, because I've stolen the lid off it now to make our little stool, so I should probably use some of that stain if I'm going to. So while I'm waiting for the glue to dry on our sewing table, I've just been filling up these shelves. All this stuff here was all stuff that came as part of the pack. These are just, again, fabric scraps, like bits of stuff that I've had lying around for years. I'm terrible at throwing things away, but then you do something like this, and again, you're like, aha, there is a reason I never threw this away. Including stuff that I evidently got like before I left home, including this, which I thought might make a lovely little Sylvanian dress. So we may actually make something out of some of this stuff in the end. Conveniently, all these scraps of fabric that I've picked up, this is a really nice fabric, would actually work very well. They're the right sort of size and shape for Sylvanian clothes. So maybe this will in fact be a functional sewing shop. But for now, I'm just going to fold these and neatly put them away in these little stacks. Though neat, especially with things this size, may be easier said than done. Stuff, get on the shelves. See, this person's wrapped them around little bits of card. I think I can show you. So they're glued on, they're wrapped around little bits of card, which works really well for stacking, actually. But I'm probably not going to go through the effort. And like I said, some of these fabrics I think I'd actually quite like to use for clothing. See, this one I want to indicate that it is in fact stripy. I'm going to fold it that way instead. We're getting one more in that little section. These are a pair of shorts that I have in fact made into a pair of shorts for someone else's Sylvanian families. A lot of these are horribly creased, having been in storage for donkey's years, well over a decade in this particular case. Oh, it turns out very difficult to fold shiny satiny ribbon. Also, don't these match just perfectly? This is definitely going to be a dress. I have lots more of both of these as well. There you go, some fully stocked shelves. That will do the rest when we're actually putting stuff back into the shop. We're just going to do a quick stain on our table. I probably won't do as many layers of the staining as I did on the exterior wood. Mix that up and not use that for a few days. So really I just don't want it to look brand new. So the reason I've made this table in the first place rather than using the other one as a sewing table is that this one's a bit narrower and a bit wider, so it's just not quite the right size. All the actual sort of historically sewing tables that I've seen that have sewing machines on them seem to be sort of long and thin. That's what we're going for. Don't want it to get too wet all at once because I'm scared the legs will fall off. Shows how much faith I have in my own carpentry, I don't know. I'm not sure why the top is staining so much better than the legs, because it's all the same lolly sticks. It's aged that quite nicely, actually. Better than I anticipated, which is always nice. Now it's time to put the rest of our stuff back into its little baskets. Stick. Ooh, lost a ball. Lost lots of balls. Oops. Stick those in there. Retrieve the other balls. This little sort of galvanised actual metal bucket is not going to be included in the sewing shop. It might be put into something else later if I get round to it. This is good. These rolls, just stand them up in there. These things, which I'm not entirely sure what they're supposed to be. I suppose they're kind of sequins and buttons or something, but the place they fit is in here, so that's where they're going to go. I might put the pearl buttons at the front because frankly I prefer those. I don't know if these are possible to use. Maybe they are. Again, if this can at all possibly be a functional sewing shop, that'd be marvellous. This one, it was These little tiny flowers, I'm not sure I'm going to get much use out of these. Maybe I'll do a deliberate, I don't know, midsummer party or something. As in one of my favourite films, The Wicker Man, not as in Midsummer Murders. Although maybe we'll do something a bit Midsummer Murdersy at some point, who knows. These feel like the kind of things you get on socks for christenings and stuff. And this little one had these adorable tiny little reels of thread in. Yep, so they're all little sewing supply. So it also came with these lovely little jars of buttons, jar of, I'm not sure, buttons, maybe? Probably buttons. Little beads. These are adorable though, I love these, I think they're so cute. Also came with all these little knitting needles, which I think are just the end of skewers that have a bead on the end. They didn't come with this little pot. That is actually a pen lid from a pen that doesn't work anymore. So I just stuffed them in there rather than have them sort of all over the place. Teeny weeny pair of scissors. Who doesn't love a teeny weeny pair of scissors? I can go in there too. A little measuring tape. Where will that go? I can go in there. It also came with a couple of these tiny little magazines. This one did not come from this set. That's from an old sort of horse stable that I was making when I was younger. I don't really like this one. I'm not a fan of the royals. So that one can go at the bottom of the pile. But these are fantastic. Little cross stitch one, and knitting and crochet. They've even got the backs. Well, the back is actually the same as the front on that one, but this one's got an advertisement for, can't see what brand, but some kind of gin in there. Lovely. We'll go together. I've also got some book covers printed off that I'm going to do myself in a little bit. Tiny wee plant pot, slightly bigger plant pot, and these were actually originally mine again from the stable set, but it's a lovely little, actually ceramic tea set, with the slight issue that I only have a little sugar bowl one. I remember putting sugar and milk into these tiny little things when I was smaller. So the only problem with these is that I've got all the original saucers, which are 4 of them, but I've only got 4 cups, the other cups still in my stash of other things. So only 2 or 3 people can have a cup of tea at any one time. I've just got 2 in here, just for Angus and Rosie. And also from my little stable, I've got these tiny little mice who, when I found them because I was looking for doll's house things, I think they're just too cute. They're gonna have to be in the shop somewhere. They're just adorable little wooden mice. Although frankly, since, you know, these are cats, I'm not sure the mice would last very long. They're almost to scale as mice as well, so I think that's quite cute. So yeah, our next step, when I get my printing and stuff cut out, will be to actually decorate and fill in the house. And Angus and Rosie are clearly very excited about this prospect. So I keep saying, oh, this is the last thing, this is the last thing, but I keep finding more things to do, so here we are. I've got this little dress pattern, a couple of sewing related adverts, not at all a reference to my surname at all, a little open and close sign, and these tiny little books. Tiny books. And now finally, after all this time and effort, it's time to set up our doll's house.
Stop fussing, Rosie. It looks lovely.
What about more trim? It doesn't look too busy, does it?
Rosie, it's perfect. Don't worry.
I hope they like us.
They will. Let's head on. There's nothing more we can do tonight. We'll open in the morning. There we go. We're officially open. But don't worry if we don't see anyone for a few days.
Hello, are you the new haberdashery? I have a hell of a time trying to keep up with my girls. So many lost buttons and they grow so fast. I'm Annalise, by the way, Annalise Tuton.
Rosie McCartney, and this is my husband Angus. Yes, we are the new haberdashery. I'm also a seamstress.
Well, you'll have to book me in for a fitting. It feels like years since I bought anything for myself. You know how it is. Is Wednesday at 10 okay?
Yes, certainly. See you then.
See you then.
You know, Rosie, I think this will work out just fine.
Hello everyone. So here are the beautiful Rosie and Angus, and also Annalise at the back, inhabiting our lovely new interior that we've just finished. There is more that I could and would like to do to this, but I was getting far too into little tiny details, and I might work on this again in the future, but for now this seemed like a right kind of cut-off point. So the hardest bit by far was doing the wallpaper, like by a country mile. That was the hardest part. But it's also one of the bits I'm happiest with. It's lovely. I would love some William Morris wallpaper in my own house, but considering how difficult it was to wallpaper a tiny house, I'm not sure that I'm up for doing a full-size one. I love the lighting. I think it's really effective. I did have to work around the very short distance between the two different LEDs, but I think all in all that's worked really, really well. I wish I knew the name of the seller who sold the base sort of house and a lot of the little furniture in there, because I'd love to give them a shout out, because it's just lovely, lovely tiny little things. Who doesn't want that? I love how the change in the woodwork has been on the pieces of furniture, the little paint job I did there. I think that's wonderful. I'm so excited that I raided my fabric stash and found lots of little bits that would actually make really nice Sylvanian clothes. I might do a little video in the coming week just on making some Sylvanian clothes. I will be trying to do some more stop motions as well, because they've just been a fun little project. So tell me what your favourite bit of all this is, or if you would have William Morris wallpaper in your own house, and yeah, give me some ideas of other things you'd like to see. I'm hoping to bring a Sylvanian house makeover back during October for a spooky Halloween version, but for now this is really sort of quaint and cute and Victoriana, and I think it's wonderful. It's brought me a lot of joy and reduced a lot of stress. So I hope it's done the same for you, and that you've also enjoyed watching me battle my way through this. I've never done anything quite like this before, and I think it's turned out really nicely. So I hope you have a lovely day, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye! Squeeze around the camera there. Hello. I'm just going to stick those in at third points for a three-legged stool. I always think of it as a peace sign. I find that it helps me like remember where everything's supposed to go. Oh no, I've glued the wrong side, haven't I? Oh well, we'll just glue the other side. If you could stay, please, that would be wonderful. I'll just hang out here for a minute. Oh, that horrible thing when you think you're going to sneeze and you don't.